Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada. With your WWE NXT Heatwave 2025 instant analysis. That's right, Getting Over is back for the second time on Sunday, August 24th, to break down everything that happened at NXT Heatwave in Lowell, Massachusetts. A loaded edition of the show featuring a NXT PLE that pretty much had something for everyone on Saturday night, following, of course, AEW Forbidden Door, an instant analysis podcast of which is already in your feed. So if for some reason you already happen to miss that, make sure you listen before AEW Dynamite on Wednesday, and certainly make sure you get through this episode before NXT this coming Tuesday. We have an absolute ton to get to tonight, just as we did earlier today. So without any pause, allow the Silver King to remind you off the top that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about Defy.
Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments for the show. And on Twitter, you get to vote in our pre and pro show polls surrounding premium live events and pay-per-views. We use those polls to inform our final segment on these instant analysis episodes, where we grade the entirety of whatever event we're covering. In this case, of course, NXT Heatwave. And you can subscribe to us on YouTube. There, you get full-length audio episodes, full-length video interviews, wherever you want to find us on social media. It's the same handle, at Getting Overcast. Now, this is the part of an instant analysis, just like I said earlier, where I would normally crack open a cold one, but because the Silver King will be speaking extemporaneously for the better part of an hour here, I'd basically just be wasting an incredible beverage. So we're going to keep that in the refrigerator. We're going to save it for WWE Clash in Paris next week, because on Tuesday, we'll have your ultimate preview episode. Thursday, of course, we'll talk NXT and AEW fallout from these shows. And then next Sunday, right before the NFL season begins, the last free Sunday of the year, you will have a WWE Clash in Paris instant analysis. Again, subscribe right here to the Getting Over Wrestling podcast if you are a first-time listener, and we hope you enjoy the remainder of this show as we deliver performance-enhancing audio into your ear holes. So now that we've taken care of business off the top, let's get into the NXT Heatwave instant analysis. As mentioned, this show was in Lowell, Massachusetts. The setup was really cool looking with a lit-up balcony. I believe it ultimately sold out. It's like 1,900, 2,000 ticket allotment, but there were a few hundred seats that probably could have still been opened. It's pretty disappointing, just given the quality of NXT PLEs regularly. I'm not sure why they run small venues in small towns as opposed to small venues in big cities where you could sell 3, 4, 5,000 tickets. But, that's what they're doing. And they announced a couple more NXT Premium Live Event specials, which we will discuss at the end of the show. Let's get right to the main event. NXT Championship on the line. Oba Femi defending against Javon Evans. Ricky Saints put over Javon while he was preparing for this match, gassing him up about The Undertaker's belief in him and his win in the number one contendership match over Trick Williams, who surprisingly did not show up on this show. Evans was selling injured ribs from that match, saying Saints did his thing against Jasper Troy as well, and he shouldn't sell himself short. Ricky said that he truly believes Javon is the future of WWE and NXT. Both he and the fans are totally behind him dethroning Oba, and of course, Rick is going to be waiting on the other side for his title shot. Saints repeated himself one too many times about Taker. Other than that, this was a great babyface setup for the match. Josh Briggs later came across Femi, predicting that his reign would end because Evans was a kid destined to win the title. He also told Oba that the grind is clearly wearing on him, but if he somehow gets past Javon, then he, Josh, is next in line, having just wrecked Yoshiki and Amora. Briggs' best promo in a while, solid setup, giving Femi something to think about going into the match. The video package was also great, as was Vic Joseph reminding us that this was the city and venue where Javon got his jaw broken by Ethan Page just 7 months ago, so the possibility of everything coming full circle and him winning the title here that was out there. In terms of the match, Oba caught a springboard cutter attempt cold, pouncing Javon inside out. Then he got stunned by the strength of a super kick before eating a springboard hurricanrana. Femi prevented a tope suicida, chopped the life out of Evans' chest on the apron. Then he hit an incredible Arn Anderson-style spinebuster. So much power, it legit could be dude's finisher. Oba also made fun of Javon's sell after his house bounced out of the corner on a lariat. Really good heel work there. He snuffed out a Javon rally with a backbreaker, adding a chokeslam. Evans had a run with a flurry of strikes, a springboard clothesline, 2 red dots, and a tornado DDT, but he came up well short on a frog splash midway into the ring. I'm guessing he slipped on the top turnbuckle or the top rope or something, but it was really odd. It killed the energy for a moment. He went to the other corner and hit 110% of a frog splash in a redo just to rectify it. Femi took a rebound German suplex but bounced out of it, delivering 2 running European uppercuts before Evans countered a third with a cutter. Then Javon sprung off the ropes for a flying cutter, only to get clocked cold midair with a European uppercut from hell. On the ropes, Oba shoved Javon into a referee, only to get an avalanche powerbomb countered into a hurricanrana. Evans then landed a pop-up cutter and a flying springboard cutter in succession for a dusty finish, 1, 2, 3, with Oba's foot clearly underneath the bottom rope. It was a backup referee who had run in to make the count. The original referee prevented the decision immediately. Evans missed a tornado trying to capitalize on the confusion, so Femi just picked him up, chucked his ass out of the ring through the announce table, which shattered on impact. Fall from grace followed, ending the match with Oba retaining the NXT Championship. Holy hell. It is here I remind you that Oba was once an all-American shot putter for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and we posted a video combining the two moments on social media that you can see for yourself. What a freaking finish to this match. The missed frog splash, that was unfortunate because it took a 5-star finish and it did push some of the air out of it. But man, they came back nicely from the miscue with the uppercut sequence, the referee bump, ultimately the 2 big impact moves to end the match. As we said on the Ultimate preview, look, I know people are going to freak out about this, but it was far, far too soon to strap up Javon, as much as many fans may want it. This bout and Evans' journey to it, it was not built anywhere thoroughly enough for it to be the match where he wins the title. And at just 21 years old, there is no rush whatsoever. As I've said before, he should have been tag team champion with Cedric Alexander. If so, now we could be talking about him as a North American champion. Instead, it feels like the NXT title is the only goal that's going to satisfy him or his fans, when that really should be a long-standing goal instead of a short-term one. These two, they were crazy impressive for a couple relative neophytes, even if Evans is more experienced than Femi. Their average age is 24. They're going to be in WWE. Hell, they're going to be WWE superstars, main eventers, whatever you want to call them, for a long-ass time. The size, strength, and visual differential between them makes them a terrific pairing. The pacing of this match was perfect. Outside of that one sequence in the end, it never really felt like Javon had a legitimate chance to come out on top. Again, proof that this was not the match for them to do the title change. Not in front of 2,000 people on a card somewhat placed to counter-program a competitor. You strap up Javon in a huge moment on a big show in front of 10,000 people. It was incredibly ironic that the finish here was extremely similar to Hangman Page and MJF just a few hours earlier, in that it was a 3 count without the bell ringing due to a rope break. The circumstances, of course, were drastically different, and I already went through everything wrong with the prior match on our first instant analysis of the day. The reason this one didn't suffer from the same issues is the referee called it off immediately because he saw exactly what happened live. Night and day logic differential when you compare it to the other finish. Both Oba and Javon sold incredibly well in this match, which gets lost a lot when we talk about the way wrestlers perform. Femi's shock every time Evans landed a little bit of a significant move on him, that allowed viewers to buy into the possibility of him winning the match despite the size differential. And Javon bumping like he was made of rubber obviously puts over Oba's power. Making the finish even more beneficial long-term, Javon seemed to get a win over Oba. So when the time comes, the rematch will not only be deserved, but the promos will have backing. I pinned your ass 1, 2, 3 before, and I can do it again. This was exceptional. It was as good as any match that we saw on Sunday, in my opinion. 4.25 stars and an A. exactly the main event that NXT needed on the show, and it continues the revitalization of the men's division, which had been dormant for pretty much a calendar year. As it looked like NXT was heading off the air, Saint's music hit. He went face-to-face with Femi in the middle of the ring, talking trash to one another, and that was all. I thought we were going to get Briggs coming out as well, given what happened backstage, but they only sent Saints out there, which of course is interesting. Jordan Grace fought Blake Monroe. This did not co-main event, as I expected. It was third to last on the card. Blake slapped Jordan at the bell, then played chicken shit. She prevented a Death Valley driver on the steel steps, hooking the ring post and pulling Grace backwards into the steel, which was a great spot. Monroe then pulled her shoulder into the ring post about 6-7 times, I think, trying to weaken Grace. Jordan deadlifted out of an armbar for a slingshot back suplex, following with a perfect spinebuster and a jackhammer. Blake tried to hang on to and pulled off a bottom turnbuckle before eating an inverted Alabama slam into a German suplex. Monroe floated through into a skull-crushing finale, missed by commentary. Jordan responded with a backpack German, but she got murked with a V-trigger and a high-angle suplex. Then she blocked a corner hurricanrana, deadlifting Blake upwards for a stand-up Liger bomb off the second rope. Spot of the entire match. Grace stopped herself from taking a header into the exposed bottom turnbuckle, but Monroe immediately stomped her face directly into it, adding her double underhook DDT to get the win. Now, as we said on the Ultimate Preview, again, it had to be Blake winning here, given she was newer to the territory and she had to show out as a single. It was also important to keep the feud going because it's really nowhere close to being over. These two acquitted themselves incredibly well. Started a tad slow, picked up massively over the latter two-thirds. Blake reminded precisely why she is such a high-valued free agent, and the stomp into the exposed turnbuckle, that was the perfect viciousness for her character that we've needed to shine through in WWE. The crowd got behind Jordan here like I'm not sure they have before to this point in her NXT career. I see people out there still angry that she's losing, not understanding the simple concept of a wrestler being booked to overcome a slump and fight through adversity. If Grace went to NXT and completely dominated everyone on her way to a title, what exactly is interesting about her? What exactly would she have to fight for to achieve? They're trying to build a layered character, which is precisely what sets WWE apart from other companies. She's not getting screwed over. She's not being booked poorly. They're attempting to do something with her over an extended period of time. The finish, yes, it was telegraphed, obviously, with the turnbuckle pad, but it was executed to perfection. It protected Jordan, gave Blake the massive win that she needed. 4.25 stars in an A. I thought this was the women's match of the entire weekend. TNA Knockouts Championship, JC Jane defended against Masha Slamovich and Ash by Elegance. Solid three-way sequences early here. Jane had a great dropkick of Slamovich into the corner before a couple of, I'd say, equally great cannonballs. Masha then squashed JC into Ash with a running air raid crash into the corner. Ash missed a middle rope moonsault, eating a JC flying senton upon landing. Jane took Slamovich off the ropes with a hurricanrana, followed with a huge kick, only for Ash to save the fall with a flying meteora. Fallon Henley saved the fall using Jane's foot for a rope break before the groups kind of went at each other ringside. Jasmine Nix punched Ash clear in the face. The referee caught her out of the corner of his eye, so he straight up ejected Fatal Influence. Masha caught JC ringside for a massive facebuster into the apron, which was gnarly. Ash then hit them with a flying crossbody, half missed by production, plus an incredible sounding pump knee to Masha's face. She added a tornado DDT and a jump-up moonsault, only for JC to take her head off with a pump knee falls finish. Jane landed rolling encore. She got pulled out of the ring by Elegance Brand. That allowed Ash to hit a swanton bomb and shockingly get the 1-2-3 to bring the Knockouts title back to TNA. What surprised me in the finish here is that Lainey Reed did not factor into the match at all. It seemed like they were building on TV for her to be a person who saves JC when Jasmine and Fallon cannot, and therefore she seems to be more valuable to the champion than her actual friends and group mates are. I thought it was plain as day booking from TV. Instead, I guess they're going to use her as a wedge driver to say, hey, Jazz and Fallon clearly aren't, getting the job done for you, so maybe I should step in. And they just do it on TV, but I thought they were going to use Lainey to retain the title here. So this is why it was such a surprise to me. The match exceeded expectations, I would say, by a significant degree. Perhaps no one exceeded those expectations more than Ash, who was really up to her game, getting more regular opportunities to work in TNA. than she did as Dana Brooke in WWE, strapping up their entire group, the Elegance brand. It obviously makes sense for what TNA is trying to do. And while I'm actually annoyed a little bit that JC's run ended so early, she was doing such a great job as double champion recently. TNA not having either of its top titles for an extended period of time, that was probably a non-starter. So let's be fair to them. This was at least a way to transition it off Masha without Ash pinning her for the title. Now that Ash got her 1-2-3 here and pinned Masha for it, clearly she's going to be pissed off because of the circumstances and want to get her title back so they can build a pretty big match between them. Jane continues to impress me just how much she has grown over the years, especially since winning the NXT title and adding the TNA title. The wrestling here, top to bottom, they did a great job keeping the crowd energized and the triple threat alive just with how many breakups and exchanges were built into the match. It was the match of the night at the time it ended at 4 stars A-, and I may be selling it a little bit short. I'm glad it got a longer run after the ejection and didn't end immediately after that. That's what we always talk about. There were spots earlier in this evening where that happened, and it's always frustrating to me. They went a good amount of time. I don't want to say much longer, but a good amount of time after that ejection happened. My only issue really was changing the TNA title with a fall involving 2 TNA wrestlers on a WWE show. This really should have been on a TNA program, and the NXT title should have been on the line here. And really, if we're being honest, if it's a TNA title match on a WWE show, it should have a TNA referee. Lastly, Masha must be signed by WWE sooner than later. What a ridiculous talent. And by the way, an all-time ring name, Masha Slamovich. Come on, that's incredible. I didn't want to miss this because I don't want to pass over what's obvious to everyone who watched the show. But Fallon Henley, once again,
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
we had Tavian Heights and Tyra May Steele against Ethan Page and Chelsea Green. There was a promo backstage before the match with the heels basically talking about why Canada is great and America is not. It was really well done, but frankly, I didn't have much time to break it down, nor was it necessary for us to do so. They were really fun together, naming themselves the Canadian Standard of Excellence. Both teams were in their nation's colors. The Americans were literally in flag gear. Chelsea got loud-ass chants at the bell before Tyra Gator rolled her. When the men were going, Chelsea had a great interference dropkick through the ropes on Tyra to prevent a tag. Page hit Codebreaker on Heights, tagging Green to a huge pop. He stopped her backhand, giving Tyra an opening for a spear and a seesaw into Ethan. Tavian delivered a really smooth single motion jackhammer. That looked great. Tyra took him down, Ethan, that is, with a suplex and then a German suplex in between. Paige had caught Alba Fire trying to help him, so she took a fall-away slam. This as Tyra did a German suplex to Ethan. Steele tried to put an ankle lock on Paige, but when Heights got involved, the referee got distracted. Fire super kicked Steele, and Green hit Unpretty Her to get the victory. I'm glad this subverted expectations with the heels winning, especially given that they were the face side in the match, just the way the crowd was reacting to them. And also, it's a main roster superstar in Chelsea and someone in Ethan who probably should be a main roster superstar. I presume that the cheering for the Canadians was simply due to how much the fans love Chelsea and not the proximity to Canada, but perhaps that was taken into account with the booking. Paige and Green were great together. They absolutely should have beaten a pair of neophytes. Steele was the perfect person to take the fall, especially now because Green can brag about beating an Olympian. Not one of the best matches on the card or even throughout the day, but certainly a lot of fun. The crowd was absolutely wild for Chelsea and throughout this entire match. 3.25 stars and a B. Lola Vice fought Kalani Jordan and Jada Parker in a triple threat #1 contendership for the NXT Women's Championship. This opened the show with Lonnie visiting her family ringside. Parker hit a double stack teardrop. Jordan then nailed Vice with a step-off springboard, twisting leg drop as she was draping on the ropes. She also did a swinging hurricanrana around the ring post, an X-Factor style DDT, a frog splash to break up her competition brawling on the canvas, and a pendulum corkscrew plancha, all of which were great. Then she did a handspring cutter with a split landing, which is entirely unnecessary. As is tradition, she will do a ton of great, sensible moves and then throw in a couple ridiculous, illogical ones. Lola did her speed kicks and showed she's a Latina with 6 consecutive hip attacks in the corners. Booker T was hysterical here. Parker broke a fall with a blockbuster, hit a spinebuster on Jordan before Vice based a power of doom. Jada got knees up to block one of a kind, but Lola countered Hypnotic with a roundhouse kick. Lonnie did a helicopter spin slam on Lola, but fell way short on a 450. That was luckily countered into a submission anyway. Just as Lonnie was falling asleep, Jada tried to run at both of them with Hypnotic. She landed it on Jordan, but Vice got out of the way, caught her off balance with a fold over cover to escape with the win and the number one contendership in 12 minutes. Vic Joseph made a great point after the bell, shouting out how much a year makes a difference when you consider the way Lola wrestled Roxanne Perez last year on this show, and of course, the way she won this match. He was saying that in kayfabe, but it was factual in reality, as we've been saying on this show. Vice has been so much better over the last month. It is clear that she's upped her game massively from bell to bell. She still struggles with character and promos, and as far as I'm concerned, she's nowhere close to ready for the main roster. I would normally protest her getting another title opportunity. I just don't see how she's beating JC, even if the event is in Fort Lauderdale, which of course is close to Miami, which is where Lola Vice is from. I assume this is a reward for how hard she's been working in AAA. Lola has done a lot of late, going Mexico, United States, working a variety of shows. As I said about Lonnie here and many times before, she just gets in her own way, trying to do too much. She is so ridiculously talented and creative. I just want her to give us 80% of that and leave the other 20% that doesn't lead to impactful moves on the cutting room floor. She's just got to be more discerning. Agents really should be helping her with that. Could not really ask for much more from these three. Fast-paced 12-minute match, really only one flaw, 3.75 stars, B+. Though I really would have liked a more impactful and decisive finish without a title on the line. If you're not changing a strap, let someone just get like a finisher 1, 2, 3. Why is that so difficult? It shouldn't be. Jada was later bitching about her loss backstage to a trainer, saying she hated that she got rolled up. You didn't get rolled up, Jada. You got folded over. When Lash Legend came in talking trash, saying she wouldn't beat JC anyway, and neither will Lola. She's the only one who can take Jane down. Parker obviously countered that Legend just lost to Nia Jax, got her ass squashed. It got further heated between them, leading to a pull apart from security and presumably a match this Tuesday. JC backstage was furious about losing her TNA title, first insulting the interviewer and then going after Jazz for getting them ejected. Nyx really wasn't standing for it. Vice came in talking shit, saying she would have another problem soon because she was going to lose the NXT title at No Mercy. More on that in a minute. Zaruka then stepped through, talking more shit, getting Lola's back, and setting up a 6-woman match for TV this week. Both of these segments did a great job setting up TV. And when you're talking NXT PLEs, you absolutely need to do that. Tag Team Championship, Hank and Tank against Dark State. This was second on the show, and it's the last match we're discussing. Dark State played mind games at the bell before revealing it was Dion Lennox and Osiris Griffin in the match. Total shame not to have Saquon Sugars wrestling when he's the best wrestler of the entire group. The heels dominated early before the faces went on a hot run with a Tank Tope Suicida exclamation point. Tank got another hot run with a springboard double crossbody and a pounce of Sugars off the apron into Cutler James. Lennox hit a perfect spinebuster on Tank before a 2-man lifted powerbomb for a false finish. Sugars and Cutlers wiped themselves out ringside by missing potential interference tries. Saquon in really exciting fashion. Hank caught Dion with the boss man slam before choosing to dive into the rest of Dark State rather than try to finish the match in the moment. The champions combined for honk honk, but further Dark State interference prevented their finisher from landing. Hank then ate a massive Doomsday device halfway into the ring for the 1-2-3, with Dark State winning the titles. Extremely fun match with the right winners. The championships absolutely had to come off Hank and Tank, and Dark State needed the straps to establish themselves as a serious faction and a threat, given their booking has been so start and stop since they debuted. It was unfortunate the Sugars didn't get to wrestle alongside Lennox just to provide the best possible match on a PLE, but Griffin did well for himself, and he showed decent chemistry. Hank and Tank, they remain whatever for me. They have great energy, good babyface gimmick that gets the crowd going, but their moveset is limited, and I simply struggle to take them that seriously. The tag team division, they will be better off with the titles flipping from them, I promise you. They can accomplish so much, Hank and Tank, without being strapped up, so many comedy gimmicks, backstage segments, all that, whereas Dark State really needed the titles to legitimize themselves. 3.5 stars and a B. Great energy throughout. I forgot to mention the Doomsday device was clean as hell. Actually, you know what? I think it was perfect. And extra credit to Saquon for a late sliding dive underneath the turnbuckles that missed, and he sold it like a cartoon character, yelling off screen. Got a brief laugh out of me. The whole Hank and Tank and hockey jerseys looking like Public Enemy shit, that's got to stop. They really need a refreshed look just to be less of a joke. You can't have them looking and acting like heavy machinery and then expect them to actually become something when you saw what happened literally to heavy machinery. Now, those were all the matches on the show. But there was some news and other developments as well. The Culling told Tatum Paxley she made them proud in the North American Championship match, with Izzy Dame explaining she only stopped Shawn Spears from handing her the doll because she believed in Tatum winning on her own merits. They believed they were stronger than ever, with Tatum and Izzy excited to have a tag team match to prove themselves on Tuesday. It is crazy how dull Culling had been, only for Paxley to join and suddenly make them legitimately interesting. While their promos, they remain one note, there's now enough variety in the faction to create interactions that intrigue. I'm definitely curious to see how this match transpires Tuesday, and also who winds up teaming with Ren Sinclair, because that's going to be really important. Ava backstage admonished Lexis King for blinding Miles Bourne. King said it was going to build character for the young man. Ava was incensed, saying she should fine and suspend him, but Miles wants to fight him. Lexis was all about that, saying the guy was blind and deaf. He wouldn't be really much of competition at that point anyway. So Ava said, okay, I'll make it a blindfold match. This was the obvious booking, but I will say, it does seem kind of unfair to book Bourne in a blindfold match, given you don't get permanently blinded by pepper spray. He's already deaf, so you're actually taking something away from him. I would say even more so than you are from King in this situation. Now Miles is going to win, and this will be over, so whatever. But I don't really know that they thought through the logic of doing this match. In WWE's continuing effort to piss me off personally, NXT announced No Mercy will be coming to my neck of the woods at the War Memorial in Fort Lauderdale, where I saw multiple ECW shows back in my day. Unfortunately, it's one of 2 Saturdays the entire football season where I'm going to be out of town. So I won't be able to go to an NXT PLE almost literally in my backyard, which is absolute bullshit. Outside of my personal crap, in this case, WWE counter-programming my life, NXT also set Halloween Havoc for the end of October in Arizona, seemingly piggybacking off of SmackDown in Phoenix. They're also doing a throwback black and gold homecoming TV special at Full Sail University in 3 weeks. Now, I would go to that as well if it wasn't less than 2 weeks before a big trip I'm taking, so I can't risk it. 0 for 2 here on scheduling events the Silver King would attend, but is now unable to attend. More importantly, though, why are we doing monthly NXT PLEs? End of August, end of September, end of October. Obviously, NXT deadline is going to be happening in December. Fingers crossed they don't book one for November. But what are we doing here? I mean, this has to be an effort either to placate Peacock for, as part of the deal to get the main roster shows off early for ESPN, or because they're trying to sell this NXT PLE package and they want to put out there that they're going to do monthly shows for whoever's going to bid on it. But they want to prove that they can do it creatively. I don't know, but 3 months in a row, I don't know, man. That's a little bit too much NXT PLE when you have a weekly show and it's a developmental brand. Even with the TNA involvement, it's too much. And lastly, Ava announced late in the show that the Speed titles are going to be integrated into NXT, with Sol Ruca set to defend her strap at No Mercy against a challenger that will come from a mini tournament involving Raw, SmackDown, TNA, and AAA superstars. Okay, maybe I'm not going to be so butthurt about missing No Mercy if you're putting a Speed title match on a PLE. I cannot imagine why they believe Speed titles should be on this brand. There's already 6 titles on a 2-hour show, including the Heritage Cup. Why the hell are we adding 2 more singles titles as opposed to a women's tag team championship if you have to have something? I don't see why this is necessary whatsoever, especially since the champion holds another women's title. I'll keep an open mind initially. Maybe it moves between brands, given superstars from each roster are competing for this initial number 1 contendership. But off the bat, I don't really like it. So, we'll put a pin in it and we will circle back when we get a little bit more information. So that wraps up the full breakdown of WWE NXT Heatwave. It is time for us to go with our grade segment, discuss our pre-show expectation grades, and of course, our final grades for the show. Coming in, Silver King was at an 89 out of 100. I had a B+ expectation for the show. All of you are getting overheads. Our listeners, you got to vote on Twitter at Getting Overcast. You came back 26% in the A range, 65% B to B+, 7% B- to C+, and 2% C or lower, which I thought was an extremely interesting grade, even though it was only a few percentage points. That comes out to an 89.955 out of 100, which of course rounds up to a 90, an A-, so 1 point higher than the Silver King as an expectation coming into the show. So with that said, let's go ahead and see what your final grades were for NXT Heatwave. There's still 20 minutes left to go on the poll, so these numbers could slightly change, but 36% A+ to A, 47% A- to B+, 14% B to B-, 3% C+ or lower. That averages out to a 92.4 out of 100, rounding down to a 92 out of 100 in A-. So you guys were 2 points higher than your pre-show expectation grade, but still in the same letter grade range. And I do agree that this show exceeded expectations. There's no question about that. I would not give it a 92 out of 100. I think, for what we got on the show, there were two, legitimate A-level matches and a couple others that were really fun, but perhaps were not necessarily fantastic in any particular way. There were no duds on the show, and that was important. I mean, I think the lowest letter grade I gave a match was a B, a 3.25. So, there was nothing on the program that disappointed or, fell massively below expectations. But I will say at the same time, in front of 2,000 fans and with the only, title changes being the tag team titles, which we expected happening, and then the TNA Knockouts Championship, which wasn't bad by any means, but it, wasn't necessarily to a wrestler or a superstar fans were over the moon for it. It did kind of hamper the level that this show could reach. So I'm probably on a borderline between two numbers, but I'm at an A-. I agree with you on that. I'm going to say a 90 out of 100. It exceeded expectations. It was better than I thought it was going to be coming in, but I'm not going to put this on par with some of the best NXT, WWE, or AEW shows of 2025, which is where we get into those high A- and then A-level grades, because we've given out a number of those this year. So yeah, I'm at a 90. I'm 1 point higher than I was coming in. And if you want to, split hairs and say Silver King, it was a 91, not a 90, 92. Okay, yeah, fine. But the point is, it was an A- show. It deserves that grade. Super entertaining and a great close to a really fun Sunday of professional wrestling, going from AEW Forbidden Door to NXT Heatwave. Obviously, we prefer these to be on separate weeks and separate programs. And, we don't want to deal with these back to back, especially because Silver King is up late for no reason whatsoever when he doesn't need to be. But nevertheless, super exciting programs from both brands. And if you missed our AEW Forbidden Door instant analysis, make sure you listen to it in the podcast feed. I will also remind you, we'll have WWE Clash in Paris Ultimate Preview on Tuesday, instant analysis on Sunday. And next time we're talking NXT and AEW will be Thursday, right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Just as I did in our first episode of the day, I completely forgot to mention this during the program. So allow me to remind you that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
And I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Over head. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. We're a free show. We're an ad-free show. We would greatly appreciate your financial support. It would also be great if you followed us on social media at Getting Overcast across Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, and all that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments for the show, and specifically on Twitter, you get to vote in those pre- and post-show polls we just discussed. On YouTube, of course, you get full-length audio episodes and full-length video interviews. And please, on the way out, don't forget, if you enjoy this performance-enhancing audio, well, here at Getting Over,
It's all about the 5.
So visit Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating. On Apple, take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. All right, folks. That's nearly 2 hours of podcasting from your boy, the Silver King. 2 different shows watched on a Sunday during the Tour Championship. Congratulations to Tommy Fleetwood winning his first ever PGA Tour event. There was a lot of sports entertainment going down here in the Silver King household. So we're going to rest the voice a little bit. You can probably tell it's going. We're going to be back on Tuesday talking WWE. At this point, it is time for the Silver King to sign off. and leave you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.